Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Hakeem Jeffries absolutely loses his mind on Squawk Box when this MSNBC reporter dares to grill him on these basic questions about healthcare. Let's dive in.
You need 218 votes in the House in order to pass that. You've got 214 members in the Democratic caucus. So you only need 4 House Republicans to have to sign onto it to get this passed. But the idea of saying that this is a 3-year extension instead of a 1 or even 2-year extension has any potential Republicans saying, forget it, this is dead on arrival. That's the opinion of Representative Don Bacon. He's a Republican from Nebraska who has been working with the idea of potentially extending for 2 years. But 3 years, they say, is dead on arrival. So if this is something that you want to satiate, if you want to get done, you are going to need at least some Republicans to come over. Why not start with a 1-year extension or potentially even a 2-year extension?
Well, Leader Schumer offered a 1-year extension in the context of trying to end the Trump Republican shutdown.
Yeah, that's different. What I'm talking about what you have now. Let's not go back to what's done in the past and what has not been extended. If you want to get something that has actually done, you need to do something that will have bipartisanship.
You can ask me the question. You can ask me the question. I'll provide the answer.
Answer the question instead of going back.
I'll provide the answer. No. I'm providing an answer in order to provide context. Republicans have repeatedly refused to take yes for an answer. It was a very reasonable multi-year extension that was offered. It was a 1-year straight extension plus a multi-year process through a bipartisan commission to more permanently resolve the Affordable Care Act issue. So having that context is absolutely important, regardless of what you may think.
It's important context to make me realize that I don't think you want to get a deal done. I think this is something where you'd like to see the rates go higher and allow the Republicans to hang themselves with that. Is that the answer?
That's absolutely a ridiculous assertion. And really, shame on you.
3 years is not going to get passed, so what do you do?
Shame on you for saying that. Because we're fighting. It's not a partisan issue for us. In fact, the states that are most impacted as it relates to an Affordable Care Act tax credit expiration are all Republican states. We're talking about West Virginia, Wyoming, Alaska, Mississippi, right? Tennessee. Over and over and over again, we can go through the list. That's why you probably have some Republicans who would sign on if you guys could come up with something that actually looks like a bipartisan deal. Listen, this is not a partisan fight for us. It's a patriotic fight. We're fighting for every constituent, even if Republicans aren't necessarily fighting for their own constituent. We want to find a bipartisan path forward. And that is what we've repeatedly indicated we want to do. Like, we want to sit down and have a reasonable discussion, find common ground to address this issue. Now, Republicans said in the House they were willing to deal with the Affordable Care Act tax credit issue after the government funding agreement was reached. Well, now the government shutdown is over, and there's still been no conversations with House Republican leaders. Mike Johnson never said that. The leader never said that. You do have Republicans, though, who would agree with you on something if it was actually bipartisan in nature. That's what I'm trying to get at. Actually, Mike Johnson actually did say that there was always a plan to specifically deal with the expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. In fact, he said that repeatedly. So I'm not sure what you're referencing. I think their plan is something that looks more like an HCA, which I'm guessing you would say is dead on arrival, too. If you wanted to set up these health care plans that are funded instead of going through the ACA, I'm assuming you would say that's dead on arrival, too, because there have been Republicans who've put that forward. Am I wrong in thinking you would not go along with that? What I'm saying is that what's in front of us is the immediate expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Republicans have had all year to deal with this issue, and they've refused to do it. So they're the ones who are not interested in finding a resolution to a health care crisis that they've created, including passing a bill that enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. And because of their policies, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing throughout America, including in rural parts of the country.
Which why it would be nice to see a 1-year extension so that none of these things happen immediately and give you all time to actually try and work on bipartisan situations, rather than a 3-year extension that basically kicks it down until the next administration is here. I think both sides need to come together and find some way of getting around this that's not necessarily saying, okay, we're going to spend $350 billion to extend these tax credits without having any way of trying to get at the real problems of what is causing higher premiums, what is causing this inflationary healthcare environment to begin with.
Yeah, what's interesting is that Republicans just spent trillions of dollars to provide their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks. And in that same bill, cut Medicaid by the largest amount in the history of the country and also ripped $186 billion in nutritional assistance away from hungry children, seniors, and veterans, the largest cut to SNAP in American history. But somehow we can't find a dime to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, even for a year, because House Republican leaders have rejected a one-year extension.
Do you think you were successful in shutting down the government? Do you think you got what you wanted?
We didn't shut the government down. Donald Trump and Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And in fact, the American people, prior to the shutdown, during the shutdown, and after the shutdown, know who was responsible for the government shutting down.
I cannot imagine the horror it must be to live in a reality where nothing is real. Okay, I repeat, a reality where nothing is real. That must be this weird Lovecraftian, that's the word I was trying to look for the other day, by the way, this weird Lovecraftian nightmare that the Democrat Party continues to live in. How dare Squawk Box talk back to Hakeem Jeffries, who is clearly not responsible for the government shutdown. This is insane. There is nothing that came out of his mouth, nothing that came out of Hakeem Jeffries' mouth that matches reality. Not a single word. Blaming the shutdown on the Republican Party and President Trump is 100% insane. All the Democrats had to do was say, hey, we're going to kick the can down the road for a couple of months, come back, regroup, we're going to debate about another issue, and then we'll have a real policy discussion about it if we just continue the resolution, pass a continuing resolution through the Senate with 60 votes. Instead, they decided, Chuck Schumer decided to shut the government down in order to ensure victories in 2025. Do you know what that really means? And once again, I have to apologize for this, for missing a whole bunch of this plot. I thought that this was some sort of power play that the Democrat Party was trying to play. No, it's even dumber. They wanted to turn out their base in Virginia. They wanted to turn out their base in New Jersey. And they wanted to ensure that their candidates won across the eastern seaboard. That's what this election was about. It was not about reality. It was not about truth. If it was about reality, if it was about truth, a whole lot of Democrats would have sat out the election. Okay? I have had to watch as Republicans, or at least independent voters, say, you know what, we're not going to vote for the Republican candidate because he has said something really, really dumb or really, really mean. All right, Matt Bevin, Roy Moore, George Santos, quite literally got kicked out of Congress, by the way. Then Madison Cawthorn. Then there was that guy from who screamed "You lie" from South Carolina during the Obama presidency. We Republicans all said, you know what, we're not going to deal with this nonsense anymore. We kicked him out. The only two Democrats I can think of are Alan Grayson from Orlando, was just an awful person to deal with, and then Al Franken, who nobly stepped down, even though I think he was wrongfully accused. Or at least that's the current information that I have. But Hakeem Jeffries has had no self-policing. There has not been a single moment in any of these modern Democrats in the past 15 years to say, you know what, I've said something really, really dumb, and I probably should step aside. That gene no longer exists, because a party without shame is a party that will not back down. That is an incredibly awful, dangerous, stupid thing to do in the modern era of the real politique, and Hakeem Jeffries is just out here spewing nonsense, and how dare Squawk Box actually ask him some tough questions. Say, hey, don't you think it's unreasonable to hold everyone else hostage when you could have just had a longer debate a couple of weeks later about healthcare costs? As a matter of fact, if I'm a political strategist, I'm thinking that would have been not only the better play, that would have been the better play for the midterms. What that tells me is there's something even more sinister behind the works. There's something even worse going on in the Democrat Party that I think they've gotten their internals back from their polling and realized, oh, we can do whatever we want and our own people will not police us. What that means is the mainstream media, the left-stream media, has such a stranglehold over the average American mind that it does not matter what the modern American Democrat Party does. You will have about 50% of the electorate just be okay with it. Just shrug their shoulders and go, we're good. Go ahead. I don't care that your policy is going to make everything worse. It makes me feel good about myself. We are in a scenario now where our country, our political process are now completely and utterly in a position where captured is not the right word. I am struggling to find the right words and tie this all up with a neat little bow. But we are in a situation where our politics almost don't matter anymore. That is a very scary situation to be in. Because it means that no one believes in consequences. No one believes in accountability. No one really believes that you're going to get actual pushback that means anything. And if you dare say something, you are cast out of the city. You're cast out of heaven. Well, guess what? You cast out too many people. Eventually, they're going to join the barbarians. And they're going to storm the gates. This is just a nightmare scenario, in my opinion. And Hakeem Jeffries cannot show the shame that he needs to show. Cannot admit that he screwed something up, or else his consequences are going to be that he gets primaried and that he gets cast out of heaven. So he's forced to take this position. This is the ultimate insanity here. So, yeah, Squawk Box is asking real questions. Hakeem Jeffries can't afford to answer them. And if he does, it's an admission that he screwed up. So we are quite literally taking a glimpse into the clown world of Democrat politics. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibro. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Till then, y'all have a good one.